Amended public school chaplain bill gets Oklahoma House of Representatives approval. So, the possibility of having chaplains in Oklahoma's public schools moved closer to reality on Wednesday with the House of Representatives' narrow passage of Senate Bill 36, Senator Nathan Dahm Broken Arrow. House sponsor Kevin West compared his concept of school chaplains to those in the military or police and fire departments. His intent, he said, and I like Kevin. I like him. He's a very sweet man, and I like his wife as well. They're just very sweet people. But here's the problem. The road to hell.
It's paved with good intentions.
So his intent, he said, is to provide students, faculty, and staff with someone to whom they can unburden themselves. Well, and Kevin, I get it. And Nathan, I get it. But here's the reason why.
Well, let me say this. Let me say this before you say what you're going to say.
Okay, please do.
I mean, I think we can all agree 100%. The moral value system, the disciplinary system, everything that has to do with our kids in school is massively degraded. It is gone the opposite direction of a good moral Christian value-based type of ethical responsibility. There's no qualms about that in any possible way.
Oh,
I mean, we do need to solve, there does need to be something to solve that moral dilemma that's happening.
There is.
In the schools. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. But like you're getting ready to say, if you open the road for one, you have to open it for all.
Oh, was that what I was going to say? Well, hold on. There is a solution to all of this. His name is Jesus. But see, the thing is well, I'm going to go down that road again in a second, but I want to finish what this said. So I've gone down a little bit in the article, and it says opponents argued that trained counselors and psychologists are a better solution if that is the goal. Well, we all know that the counselors at school are basically training kids in nothing that's going to help the moral upheaval that we're having right now. It's just to make it worse. Do you want to wear a dress? I know. Do you want to? So it's not, that's not going to help. So they said SB 36 at best will have minimal impact. At worst, said Representative Mickey Dolans, Democrat of Oklahoma City. It's an attempt to further insert Christian nationalism, dominionism, the New Apostolic Reformation, and the Seven Mountain Tenets into public schools.
I'll be back in 1 second. I got somebody at my door I got to get. Just
okay. So first of all, I get Christian nationalism. I've heard that term. I don't know what it means other than it's a lefty term to kind of denigrate Christians. And I get that. But I don't even know what the New Apostolic Reformation is or I have no idea what that is. But again, it doesn't really matter. The point is, he's saying at a more basic level, opponents were concerned that bringing in a chaplain from one faith or faction would lead to community quarrels and create legal liabilities. There was also some concern about the effect on faith. And here's an interesting thing. So I'm not even sure, actually, that I'm going to call myself a Republican anymore. I'm not sure what to do about that, because I look at the Republican Party right now and I see all the infighting and the ridiculousness. If we give one more damn dime to, Ukraine, I think I'm not sure what's going to happen, but it may be like all of my insides will just violently come purging. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen, but I don't know that I can stand being called a Republican at this point. And then you say you're a conservative, but what are you conserving? Because the Republicans haven't really conserved anything. So I don't even know what to call myself anymore. But here's the crazy thing. So here's John Waldron of Tulsa, who's a Democrat, saying, the quickest way to kill and erode the value of religious faith in Oklahoma is to cloak it in the coercive power of the state. I'm sorry, but he's 100% correct. This is another one of those things in which we've been told one thing. Well, there is a separation between church and state, and that's not true. We've been told that, and it's not true. There is no separation between church and state. We should be able to involve state in church matters. And I mean, right? I mean, isn't that what we've said, Michael?
Yeah, that's what everybody says, I think.
Okay. And then you even have people who will say, well, we only got that from a letter that was written by Thomas Jefferson to the Danbury Baptist Church.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here's the thing. We all know about propaganda. We all know how propaganda works. And a lot of us see it in black and white. Well, Republicans are right, Democrats are wrong. Independents just don't even know what to make of themselves, right? So what would happen if you turned propaganda on Christians and basically said, yes, there's no separation of church and state. We don't want separation of church and state. And then all of a sudden, the state started creeping in on the church.
Well, I don't think they'd like that, but.
Well, let's talk about COVID for your favorite topic. Let's talk about COVID for a second. What happened?
Whitney says, I still talk about COVID literally on a daily basis to my kids.
This is hysterical. Whitney goes, at this point, I guess I'm a revolutionary.
You know what? For whatever reason, those comments don't show up on my side.
No, because that's on Rumble. I have to read them to you. So we're not getting any comments on the other side yet. So y'all start commenting there. But no, I'm having to read you off what the comments are on Rumble. And that's just funny. Anyway, because I'm with Whitney. I don't know what to call myself anymore then, because I'm a Christian. I believe in limited government. I believe in the sanctity of individualism. I believe in the sanctity of babies in the womb. I mean, all these things that are conservative traits, I believe, but I'm sitting here going, John Waldron says the quickest way to kill and erode the value of religious faith in Oklahoma is to cloak it in the coercive power of the state. So what happened during COVID? We were just getting ready to talk about that. What happened? It happened in Canada. It happened in Australia in churches. What did they do?
Yeah, they shut down because the state told them to.
Even happened in America.
Yeah.
Even happened in America. All these churches going, oh, well, the state's telling us we have to shut down, so we're going to shut down. That's the coercive power of the state on church.
Yeah.
Hello.
Well, so let's not mince any words also, Jenny. All of these other, like all the things you just described, these are all a product of the government, period. Like the sanctity of, protecting all these institutions and things like that. The only way that these things go down, like as big an issue as abortion is, it's only because it's subsidized so heavily by the government. All of those things across the board, it's at the hand of government to create dependency. Ultimately, they do not want, like when I say a sovereign individual, I'm talking about someone that is self-reliant, does not need the government, does not need all of that intervention. We can pretty much rule ourselves in every capacity.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Are churches dependent on the state?
Well, I would say, in one way or another, when they're tax exempt, then yeah, they're depending on the government. This is the reason
why I love you so much. Because you get it. Churches are now dependent on the state because they go to them, genuflect, kiss their ring.
Yeah.
Can I please have my tax exempt status?
Yeah.
Well, what happens when that's how the state got the idea that it was okay to tell the churches to shut down. Yeah. Well, we let you have your money. You do what we want. Right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So how has that helped? How has having this so-called not separation of church and state. I mean, that's a huge thing. And you hear these Christians saying over and over again, well, we can't have a separation between church and state because we've got to be able to reach those kids for Jesus in a public school. Hello. It's not your job to reach kids.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the parents' job to reach the kids. And yes, we should all go out and be salt and light to everybody else, and we should speak the word of Jesus. However, if you do that in a public school, here's what's going to happen.
Yep.
That's what's going to happen. So here it is. We have the Satanic Temple seeks to introduce ministers in Oklahoma public schools if chaplain bill becomes law. So do we or do we not have an equal opportunity clause basically in the Constitution?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was getting at earlier. If you open the door for one sect of religion, you have to allow it. I mean, you can't, I mean, this is America. You have to allow everybody their fair shot at these kids.
I'm going to see. Hold on a second.
Well, and think about this, Jenny. I always kind of spiral out towards the corporate, and financial side of things. What's going to happen when you have entities that are created in one way or another by these large corporations to get into, to get their, with the chaplain type of bill where they're like, hey, we need our people in the school also, just so they can have another foothold inside the data, inside, the contact or whatever. I mean, that's not out of the realm of possibility that you're going to have some serious financial interest down the road looking at, hey, here's another avenue into these schools where, we can help steer the narrative.
Well, and remember how people complained about us complaining about the school choice bill? And
Yeah.
I said, but here's what's going to happen. You're doing this as a voucher. And the minute you give the state, public money to a private institution, then, I mean, how do you decide what institution then you're not going to give it to? Because then at that point, it's all private. And you go, well, I'm not going to give it to the Satanic school, but I am going to give it to the madrasa. I mean, how are we not, where does this come from that we can't determine that that's a big, huge problem?
Yeah.
So I think the thing, and I wanted to pull this out, so I'm gonna show you something else. Just a second. So this is the Senate votes on the this I keep forgetting. Here's something that happens. Oh, this is interesting. So apparently the bill, Senate Bill 36, was an Open Records Requirement Act requiring disclosure of recordings from certain law enforcement equipment. So that was what it basically was originally. And so then when you go over here to the House, now it's education permitting school districts to employ or accept volunteers. Volunteer chaplains. So that's the other thing that we probably need to talk about too. Why is it that they make this huge deal about, well, if you're going to get a bill on, you'd better make sure that you get it in by this date, and we're not going to recognize it if you don't make sure you. Why do we do that if they can just walk in there and go, oh, you know what, I didn't really mean that anyway, I'm just going to get that and put something else in? So apparently that's what Dom did. He just put something else in that bill. That's called bait and switch, actually, is what that's called. If you were buying like a toaster and they give you a coffee maker, or you think you're buying a 5-year warranty and you're only buying a 1, that's called bait and switch.
Well, and think about this, Jenny, they're all up in arms, okay, to get these volunteer chaplains in the schools. And I don't have that major of an issue with having someone of, hopefully some other moral guidance in there. But then again, you open the door. So I'm not like 100% against the chaplains. Yes, there's issues there, but we as parents can't even get in and have lunch with our kids. Where are legislators at protecting the parents' rights to even go in and have lunch, sit down in the lunchroom in our elementary schools with our kids?
But you make an excellent point. So we've got to put chaplains in there, but you're not interested in upholding the individual liberty of parents to go in to a school that they pay for, where their child is being educated to have lunch. I mean, have this make sense to me in some way that I can get it.
Yeah. And I'm not just saying that. I cannot go have lunch with my third grader at his school.
Because
I can go
why?
check him out. I can go check him out and go take him to lunch. I can't go sit with him as a positive role model.
Because
in
why?
his lunchroom.
Tell people why.
Well, because after COVID, now there's all kinds of security issues. But in an intimate conversation I had with the site administrator, the principal, and the counselor there, they basically told me there's parents that they do not want having access to the lunchroom because they don't want the parents to say something to another child, or they say there may be some kind of physical altercation or incident or something like that. They literally told me that. And I said, well, plus they said, we don't need a whole bunch of parents in here during the lunchtime and this and that. And I'm just like, hey, you can, we can at least like sign up and say, here's 4 or 5 parents that want to come in, this month. It's not like you're going to be inundated with 1,000 parents trying to go in and have lunch. You're going to have a mom or a dad, maybe once a week, maybe going in to do something like that. But it was all.
So wouldn't you rather have the parents than just some unknown chaplain? And let's go back to what V1SUT, our blogger, says frequently. Wherever kids are going to be, there are going to be some kind of predators.
Yeah.
And don't tell me that we haven't had clergy predators.
Yeah.
So how are these chaplains all being vetted? And I guess the bottom line is this. Things can sound really great. Oh, I think it's great for kids to be introduced to Jesus, and I'm glad they have somebody to talk to, and it all sounds swell. Who doesn't want that? But guess what? I got to tell you that the one thing that I don't want is I don't want this.
Yeah.
That's what I don't want. And if you're going to tell me we're not going to have that, because you and I had an entire podcast on after school Satan clubs.
Yeah.
That were even in some schools.
Well,
already.
And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there for just a second, Jenny. I just want to reiterate this. You said, what are their qualifications? Is it literally like you just go to an online chaplain course and, answer some questions? What's going to, and I'll tell you what, a lot of these, I actually watch a lot of these podcasts with these satanic guys. They have more knowledge of the Bible than most Christians. So what's going to stop one of these guys from signing up as a chaplain, a Christian chaplain in a state like Oklahoma or Florida or Louisiana or wherever they're doing these? What's going to stop one of those guys from saying, hey, I'm a chaplain, and then going in there with ulterior motives?
Or they can't even keep pedophile teachers and coaches out of schools.
Yeah.
How many times have we talked about that? To me, kick everybody out, no school clubs, no anything like that. Kick everybody out and then go back to the basics. That's what you got to do, because guess what? Our kids don't even get the basics.
Well, yeah, let's hit on that for just a second.
We're the lowest we've ever been.
Yeah. It's one thing if we were at, an academic pinnacle in this state. Not only are we terrible, but we're at the very bottom. We're at the very bottom of all academic standards in this country. And the standards are so low. We've already talked about that in the past, how the standards are continuing to drop in public education. But when we're talking about even at a good school, Okay, let's take a school like Edmond. I'm intimate with the results of Edmond. You take a good school in a good community with wealthy people. They have a foundation. I mean, they have everything you could possibly want. The kids are still only 60% proficient, and that's giving it that's giving it at the highest possible level. So you've got 40% of your kids in one of the best communities out there that are still way below proficiency. They can't read, they can't do math, and that's just a continuation. I mean, if you can't get those numbers up in a place like that, I mean, think of the rest of the state. I mean, we know it's well below 30% in the regular kind of rural area in the state. And then you go to like place like Oklahoma City or Tulsa, it's like 20% are proficient. I mean, so it's one thing if we're talking about, hey, our school system is awesome. We're producing scholars. We're producing, great people that have critical thinking skills that are going to contribute to society. But we're running around with all this stuff. We can't even have 50-50 academics. I mean, it's unbelievable how everyone just completely skates over the fact that our proficiencies here are absolutely at the bottom of the barrel.
Well, and I mean, and having people there for kids to talk to, that's not going to fix the proficiency. And
Yeah.
if you can't graduate kids who don't know how to read and can't critically think, then you're going to get a whole land of automatons who will do whatever the government tells them to do anyway. But again, isn't that the point?
Yeah.
And
Well,
yet,
that is
instead of dealing with the root of the issue, we keep doing these goobery, bizarro, let's do this kind of things. And it's just not, it's as though there's just no formal thought down the road. And I've talked about this before. I think one of the reasons why I don't want to be a Republican anymore is because I have not seen a Republican who can think this far from their end of their nose. Everything is all like, well, we just believe that this is going to happen right now. They can't seem to try to figure out and game the system. Okay, well, if somebody does this, what's going to happen on down the line? Then, maybe we ought to consider that. They don't even, it's like it's all for show. It's like kabuki theater. It's like, what the Japanese used to do. I mean, let's put them in dresses and get them to do this, and then people won't notice what else is going. It's bread and circuses.
Well, and we've seen that, and you've proven that just with how the money side of all this is what really controls the politics here. If someone's truly Republican and they're looking at someone's platform that is a true conservative, true Republican, actually out there putting themselves out there running, and those people just continue to lose and lose and lose and lose, and you're just like, what what is going on here?